Light is fundamental to existence and nature and reality as we understand it. Working with light as an art form is seen as being something modern, but it really goes back through the ages that you make an image or a piece of art. Light is fundamental to how it's perceived. Hi, I'm Chris Levine and I'm an artist working with light. This is where I work when I'm in London. A few random selections. Here's a picture of designer Paul Smith. So this is a lenticular portrait. This would normally go on a light box. This is Equanimous, one of the Queen body of work. And someone asked me if it was even legal to do that, to deface the Queen, but I think in terms of taking it into pop culture, it was just something I had to do. This was Equanimous too, and again, people ask me, are you allowed to do that, the back of the Queen's head? But for me, this is the Queen ahead of us, Queen and into the future. A common factor in most of my work, is the use of light. Whether it's making an image and, light as the raw data of an image, or whether it's using laser, to create an experiential state or a meditative state. I traveled a lot when I was younger. I think I've been to about 10 schools by the time I was 11. I saw a hologram of Denis Gabor, who invented the hologram, when I was about 8, 9 at the Science Museum, and the rest of the kids had moved on. I was just it just totally defied logic. That here he was, he pressed the button, he appeared, then he disappeared. So you had to really question what was real, how does this work? My dad was an engineer. I was always been interested in things more scientific. My mother painted, I was always drawing, I'd always, I was encouraged in that way. I always knew that one day I was going to be an artist or a designer or a musician. But actually, I went to art school just filling in time till the band took off. My work at Chelsea, which was graphic design, and then went on to do an MA at St. Martin's in computer graphics. By the time I left Chelsea, I knew that I wanted to work in holograms, and it really caught my attention. I gradually got, 1 or 2 commissions and built on that. But it was all very marketing-led, but it's how I learned about the process. And then, realized, eventually that, I wanted to do my own thing. Around 1999, 2000, I was at a period in my life where, I was struggling. It was a difficult time, and to the point where I thought, if this is the way it is, I want out of here, But in the course of a week, I kept getting shown these things about meditation. So I went out to Kathmandu and I did a 10-day retreat. That was a real big turning point for me. And, meditation since then has played an increasing role in my work. I like to surround myself with things that give me a little lift, a little, spark of positivity. Whether it's something completely abstract or something that's fun and fluorescent, it's things that, stimulate you at a sensorial level. I often get labelled as photographer because my best known work is essentially photographic. But really, to me, I use camera in my work if it's appropriate for what I'm trying to do. I did do 1 or 2 hologram portraiture projects, Singer Seal, the band Oasis. But it's always something I thought maybe be something I do later on in my career, portraiture. Then the curator and sculptor, Gordon Young, was appointed by the Island of Jersey to oversee a commission that they had to do a portrait of the Queen. And I think I was a wild card, someone who was working quite interestingly with holograms. I remember when I originally got the call, I thought it was someone pulling my leg, actually, a hologram of the Queen, yeah, sure thing. The idea behind the work was to make it a hologram that would kind of speak of modernity. We had a camera that moves along a track, takes images from left to right, and then each of those images is translated into the hologram. I was very conscious of Her Majesty's breathing. As the camera did it pass, I was trying to time it on her breathing so that there'd be a sense of calm in the sequence. I did an ultraviolet crucifix with ultraviolet LEDs, and I had that behind the camera so Her Majesty could be looking at the cross, so the camera moves in front of her and she's not distracted. But it also gives the effect that she's looking beyond the camera, into the distance. It's not focused on the camera's perspective. And that kind of really played into the final image, equanimity. Well, Lightness of Being, in some ways, was an outtake. The camera took a while to do a pass, then to reset. Meanwhile, there was a lot of very bright light onto Her Majesty, so I asked her to rest in between shots. And the camera I had positioned at the center of the rail, we clicked it, and it was just a real moment of peace. There's policy not to comment on portraits, but she has a copy of this and equanimity, and I hope she likes them. The Queen portrait was definitely a game changer. Capturing a portrait, for me is about trying to get to a point of stillness, and it's like a deeper truth is revealed. With Ranulph Fiennes, I literally had a Bluetooth speaker underneath his seat playing a sound frequency. It was a frequency of Om, 136.1 hertz. Generally, it's trying to get people, into a state of calm, stillness, and something else is revealed then. Whether it's Grace Jones or Naomi Campbell or Kate Moss, it's these characters which you normally think of a lot of energy and a lot of vitality, but really turn that on its head and get it to contrast from a point of stillness has given those images a certain power. What we're going to be doing at Glastonbury next year, which is about bringing sound and light together to bring people into a collective meditative state. And in that space, things rebalance, and I think our whole way of being, kind of recalibrates when the mind gets quiet. I think in some ways, being in recovery, a lot of, my work is to try and get high. I'm looking for things that I might once upon a time have found other ways of, more chemical ways of reaching, certain states, but you don't need to do that. And how that's come out in my work is trying to kind of share that experience, through an artwork. It comes from a place of, trying to find some light.